Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's meeting is being conducted both in person and online. And we have some members who will be presenting online. And members of the public may attend in person, or the public can watch the meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or Comcast channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information is available on our meeting's webpage and in the council's agenda packet. The next item on our agenda is our announcements and presentations. Our announcements have to do with all of our council meetings, and we have one really special presentation this evening. Our council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, April 19th at 5:30 p.m. We have a work session that's scheduled for Tuesday, March 29th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, April 12th at 5:30 p.m. We have a special work session for our budget, and that's scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th at 6 p.m. in the Dakota B room, and that's downstairs. And we also have a special work session, which is our quarterly roundtable with our team leaders and our city manager, and that's scheduled for Tuesday, April 26th at 5:30 p.m., and that too is in the Dakota B room. Unless I say that the meetings are in a different room, all meetings of the Burnsville City Council is in the council chambers. So tonight, it is a very special night for us here at the City of Burnsville, and that is because we're here to recognize the Burnsville High School girls hockey team. And I'm going to do that from there, and we'll have Coach Leopard and the team come forward and receive the certificate of achievement, and then we'll also take some pictures, but let me do that from that side. So on the city council and with our city manager and our leadership team, we talked about what has been going on at Burnsville High School. Because one of the things that we do know is that there are many young adults who share the values of respect and belonging that we have here in the city. But also one of the things that we appreciate and value is your determination, setting goals to be excellent. One of the things that we talk about internally in operations is that we collaborate, we innovate, and we excel. And that's what you all have done. So today we welcome and recognize the Burnsville Blaze girls hockey team. The stories that we have heard have been really exceptional. And there's a time that I hope that we will hear some of those stories, because the way your team came together is unbelievable from what I have heard. You all had 4 young ladies join a team who had no hockey experience, have never been on skates, and here you are. but you are an incredible team, and you had an incredible season to celebrate with 24 wins. And to top it off, you started your season with a specific goal and accomplishment, and accomplished it with an appearance in the Class AA state tournament on February 26th, and you took home the Class A consolation trophy. They're remarkable, members of the council. So on behalf of myself and members of the city council, our city manager, and our staff, we want to thank you for being a positive role model, your dedication to your team, and your involvement in the community. So tonight we want to present you with a certificate of achievement that's presented to the Burnsville Blaze girls hockey team, whereas the Burnsville High School Athletic Department promotes important lifelong skills such as teamwork, dedication, confidence, and leadership. The Blaze girls hockey team are role models for younger hockey players in our community, and the Burnsville Ice Center has served as the home of the Blaze hockey for 50 years. Whereas the 2021-2022 Blaze girls hockey team completed their season 24-6-1, and whereas the team earned an appearance in the Class A state tournament, accomplishing a goal they set at the beginning of the season, and whereas on February 26, 2022, the team won the Class AA consolation trophy. And now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City of Burnsville, our council, and our staff, do acknowledge the achievements of the 2021-2022 Burnsville Blaze girls hockey team and congratulate them for their hard work, resilience, and persistence through such an accomplished season presented this 22nd day of March 2022. And I'd like to ask either the team captain or Coach Leopard to give us a small summary of this incredible team. So is there, because I have heard the story, but it's not my story, it's your story, and I think our community needs to hear your story. And I think the rest of the council would like to hear how you accomplished what you accomplished. Okay, Coach Leopard, you better come up and do this. Because we need to move along. We do have an agenda to accomplish this evening as well.
Oh, that's your mistake, is let me talk.
Yeah.
No, this is, Chase.
Yes,
Thank you very much for inviting the team here. Obviously, we've got girls that are doing other sports and working right now that could not attend. But it's just an absolute pleasure to come to Burnsville and to work with the student athletes that they have that have joined hockey over the last 3 years. This group is extremely special because it's been plagued by injuries, illnesses, the entire season. Where at one point we had 12 skaters for a game out of the 27. Out of the 75 days from the start of practice to the end just before playoffs, we had all 27 girls there twice, and they were 2 game days. Because of everything that was going on. We had a few with concussions, but these girls here, they kept going all the time. And when somebody was injured or hurt, other players stepped up, took their spot. It really was, in my opinion, is the essence of what team actually is. Because when somebody was hurt or missing, another player stepped up and didn't just play like, okay, you know, it's my opportunity. And so, no, they played with full effort and full heart for the girls that were next to them on the bench or in the locker room. They drive each other to the rinks. They drive players home. I think Burnsville, this team should be, like it is honored today, but Burnsville should be very proud of the girls that played hockey this season and in the past. And these are truly remarkable people that are going to do remarkable things in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to have the team come up, please, and receive the certificate of achievement. And then we're all going to be over here so we can take pictures. So, who's the captain of the team? Okay, come here. And your name is?
Sammy, there's three captains,
Oh,
and me and
well.
Katie are also captain.
Well,
Should we get the other seniors involved
Yeah.
too on this?
yeah,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should get
and so,
the seniors.
and then go, why don't we just go right over here and, yeah, and take some photos. And
The whole team, I think they're not sure they're supposed to come up. The whole team should come up.
the whole team, everybody. Come on. And you do, okay, yeah. Oh, they are.
No one's gonna be able to see the picture.
The tallest person on the stage is Karen. If you look,
It actually worked out that way.
it happens every.
I'm sorry, Kara.
I love it. It's almost easy, just the top of her. I'm good with that.
This looks perfect. Remember, Schultz, maybe move just a little bit that way.
Sorry, Kara.
Got you again.
Great, thank you.
I'll let others
We,
say hi.
okay, something, are you still, okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Congratulations, good work.
Thank you. Wonderfully done. Yeah, thank you. Megan, thank you.
That was fun.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that'll be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council? Anyone who wishes to address the council? Ms. Collins, is there anyone in queue?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We then will move on. The next item on the agenda is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. Mr. Lindberg, do we have any emergency items?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the council? And then we will then move on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be pulled for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item to be pulled for a separate discussion and vote? Yes, please come to the podium and give us the name of the item that you wish to be pulled for a separate discussion.
Okay, I have to look. The, supporting the Lake Marion Gap project.
Okay, very good.
And council members.
Yeah,
I sent an email a couple weeks ago.
yeah, we're going to, I'll call on you once we
Oh.
adopt the rest of the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. City Manager Lindberg, is there anything from staff?
Nothing from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda without item 40, I think it's
4F.
4F.
S.
S.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. 4S is a resolution supporting the Lake Marion Trail Gap federal funding application. And Mr. Barron, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I sent an email a couple weeks ago regarding a couple concerns that I have. This, you know, Sunset Pond, we love Sunset Pond. We've lived there for decades, and it you know, does need some improvements. The GAP project, you know, certainly could be, it will be part of what the pond needs to, you know, to improve the path possibilities. There are two main concerns with the proposed project. The first one being the path width and the separation, 8 feet for the bikes, 6 feet for the pedestrians. And this weekend was, I felt strongly about this last year, you know, when pedestrians were truly using it. I mean, we have our winter folks, but this last weekend when the weather was nice, I mean, the path was just packed with people. And it's people using the full width of the path. It's, you know, families with multiple strollers toddlers, bikes, little Back to the Future skateboards. One family had grandparents and a dog stretched over not 10 feet, not 20 feet. They used, 30, 40 feet of the path. So if we're trying to keep these people away from a bike lane, we've had our conversations. Ryan said, oh, well, we'll stripe it so the pedestrians will know where to go back to. Why are we making the pedestrians on the defense to come to nature and walk? Why can't we come up with a solution that still maintains a place for the pedestrians to walk safely and not have to be on guard for 20 to 30 mile an hour wheeled vehicles coming at them? We discussed multiple options, and I, get the feeling it's the grant that is saying Greenway has to be this. Free money is free money, but if it really, is at the detriment of the park and the pedestrians, I don't see it being worth it. The other component of what is going on at the path is we have a speed problem already at the path. And the e-bikes and e-skateboards have certainly magnified that. But in the proposal, softening some of the trails are only going to allow that type of vehicle to go even faster. I have a paralyzed dog that was run over by a rollerblader, and that's not even motorized. It's just, the pond is so, such a wonderful place and such a nice part of nature in Burnsville, and so heavily used by pedestrians. I don't have a percentage, but they outweigh the bikes significantly. And we do have to coexist, but I just don't see how this plan makes sense going for a walk and constantly. A bike can lap the pond in 10 minutes. So that means you see somebody that is doing laps in just one bike. On a regular frequency, you get multiple bikes back there, which they do. They come to do laps. You are constantly on your left, on your left, on your left. And that's, I run, so I'm back there daily. My kids went to Hidden Valley and Eagle Ridge. We have, on your left, we have a lot of families that English is their second language. They don't even understand on your left if the biker actually decides to say on your left. It just, whatever happens, I would hope would have more, placing the pedestrian
So you're
residents.
asking for more width for the pedestrian?
I more thought into this process.
Okay.
Putting the stripe down, I've run on, been on paths where bike lanes are stripes. The bikes own that stripe. You walk on that side, they are not too concerned about having to dodge you. It seems like more could be done to coexist as opposed to giving this to the bikes.
Okay.
And letting the pedestrians deal with it, especially in the concept of doing this the full length around the pond. It really will alter the enjoyment of walking around the pond because you're going to constantly be watching out for somebody running you over.
Yeah. Thank you for writing to us, and thank you for coming this evening to talk with us. Mr. Peterson, I believe that your community engagement on this process continues.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So the item tonight is a resolution of support to go to the federal solicitation to try and get the funding
grant.
to complete the Lake Marion Trail Greenway.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
it completed to the south, and we got it to the north. We have this gap in the middle. And our Parks Master Plan calls for making connections and trying to connect parks like this. We've supported the county's Lake Marion Greenway system, which showed it going through the park. Mr. Bear and I have had a lot of discussions, as indicated there. Our first plan did indicate a full separation. We had the existing path, and then we described constructing a separate path for the bikes to have their own deal where we'd be completely separated. And understandable, Mr. Barron was very much against that because of the natural resources and how big the width would be. So understandable, but we we started at there, and then based upon his and others who commented, we went back to the single multi-use trail that'd be widened. And I think striping it would be effective, because if you do have people coming up, at least you kind of know where to go. If you're a walker, you're going to make your way towards the walking side. If you're a biker, you would make your way towards the biking
Can I,
side.
Ryan, I mean,
And-
this is happening so quickly, you don't have time. And especially when you're spread out over such great distances. I mean, the
Yes.
children that aren't right next to their parents, it's,
So, Mr. Barron, why I say that this process continue, because tonight, all we're doing here is to approving that our staff can go out for this funding.
Okay.
Otherwise, they
I-
won't be able to go out for the grant.
It-
So, as we're doing this, so they go out for the grant, that process, that community engagement process can continue. And my hope is that everybody can come to a resolution. We might not get everything that we want out of it, but at least we walk away that there is a solution for walkers, for the pedestrians, and for the folks on wheels.
supporting it as it is putting pedestrians at risk.
At risk.
And as far as I knew, the process was done. It's being presented, they get the grant, it happens. This is also all fallen under COVID. So, I mean, a community involvement, and they've tried, but, we haven't had a lot of FaceTime,
Yeah.
to talk through this. It's just, it's something that could be a wonderful addition to the pond. It just needs to be done, in a matter that doesn't.
Yeah, I'm going to ask one question of Mr. Peterson, and then I have council members who also want to make remarks. Mr. Peterson, is this the end of the process, that we're going out and getting the grant? And so what is being designed now is what is going to materialize if we get the grant?
Madam Mayor, council members, so you've also authorized us to study, so the first part we studied was the Lake Marion Trail Gap on its own. And then you've secondarily directed us, or approved an item to look at the west side of the pond as well, because that side is actually in worse condition
Yeah.
than the east side is,
Yeah.
where it's generally shown, where the Lake Marion Trail or
Yeah.
Greenway would be. So we still have to get through that whole process when we're looking at that side, because if we get the dollars for the federal grant, we want the trail to be built all at one time, and so it all works together well. We have these places where it comes together, and we want that to work well. We're also looking at the buildings with that and the size of the parking lot. So I would say we still will be having a lot of discussions. Mr. Barron's throwing out a one-way bike path around there, and I wouldn't throw that out as not a possibility at this point. But what we're trying to do is get funding to build a 14-foot wide trail on the east side to be paid for by the federal grant that is shown, as he said correctly, 6-foot wide for the walkers and then 8-foot for biking. And how exactly that comes together when the west side of the path, that's ours alone, is yet to be told, but we do need to apply by middle of April in order to have a chance at the federal funding. And Dakota County is a big partner of ours. We wouldn't be talking about this but for them and wanting to get this done. And they're not here tonight, but I would say they would say that they would not be a project partner unless it would go through the park in some manner.
Okay.
And they got, one of the really cool parts about this is it sounds like we'll be able to build the trail over the railroad track. So that's just on the north side of Sunset Pond Park, and that made them very excited that we could potentially overcome that barrier. And then we could get residents from that part of town, the west of there, down to there. And I would point out that in their experience, likely more than half of the new users would be walkers. So this is, we're not building this purely for bikers, but, and the counterpoint could be, well, if you're gonna invite these new walkers here, we need them to be safe as well. So
Yeah.
I do get that. My opinion is that striping will help because you'll know generally where you're supposed to be. But we're trying to attract as many people to our high-value resources and amenities that we can and make those connections, and that's what this project would do.
Okay, Councilmember Workman.
Thank you, Ryan. I just have a couple points of clarification. So for the walking path being 6 and the bikes being 8, is that an algorithm based in something? I mean, how did we come to that calculation?
So if we had two-way biking, we'd want at least 4 feet of each side for bikers to cross, and then the remaining portion would be for walking. And the wider we make it, the more impact there is, the more easy it is to go faster, per the point. So we're, and the more natural resources we'd be impacting. So that's basically how we came up with it. So I agree, there could be definite situations where there's no one coming, and you'd have walkers walking where the striping is for, what's supposed to be for biking, and then they need to move over when they come. And I mean, we've all walked trails many times, and I see a lot of that in different locations.
Well, and to Mr. Barron's point, I mean, I have young kids, and I think we've all been through that, and when they start learning how to run and walk, they might get 20, 30 feet in front of you, and then that scenario that you mentioned can happen and has happened. You touched briefly on the logistics of a dedicated bike lane next to the walking path, but that wasn't feasible.
That was, I would say, a vast majority of the residents who did respond. And I think we had good outreach myself, indicated they did not want that method. It would impact more of the natural resources, it gets closer to the homes. So that was, appeared to be quite unfavorable. Back when we built the Lake Marion Trail further south, I'd heard more that's what was wanted, so that's what we went in with. And then it was totally based on public input that we changed the method that we were going to do this. So the public input has made a big difference. And if I could, you brought up a good point about, both you have about the challenges with younger kids. And so we also are planning on constructing a Sunset Pond Park bypass that would allow bikers, if they don't want to deal with the people who are potentially making it slower and less safe. It's also very unsafe for a biker who, if they hit someone and they go head over tea kettles, that is very unsafe for them as well. So someone who's really trying to move through there and not enjoy the beauty of the park will likely take the bypass, and that is a off-street trail on Burnsville Parkway, and then we'd be using the bike lanes on, or the shoulders, we'd call them shared shoulders on Judicial Road, and they are striped off. It would require very little cost on Judicial Road. I could bring up the graphic if that would help.
Yeah, please do.
And I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I don't know how to interject without being inappropriate,
Yeah,
but
so right now, we're trying to,
just
Mr.
key
Peterson.
components to what Ryan is saying. The bridge, you're going over the train tracks already, you do the Burnsville to Judicial, and it's done.
Yeah.
People do not come to the pond to go one way, they come and do laps. So it's, it is, something that you have somebody that's back there for, a dozen laps.
Right now, Mr. Barron,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I need to have Mr. Peterson respond to the questions from members of the council.
I apologize, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So,
Sure.
yes, Mr. Peterson, because I also have Councilmember Schultz, who also have questions. And I know there's more work, and a lot of that work can be done out of this,
Perfect, sorry.
yeah,
Yep.
this space, because we have other things on the docket this evening, yeah.
Is the graphic shown on top?
Yeah,
Okay, it is.
now we
Okay.
see it, yeah.
Sounds good. So the concept is, this is where the walking path already, or the multi-use path
Yeah.
already exists. And then we originally had shown a secondary path that'd be for biking only going through here. Like we said, we got negative feedback on that. So then the current concept is we would widen this out to that 14 feet with 6 feet would be on the inside, so the walkers would be on the inside towards the pond. And then it would be two-way biking on the outside, so that's those 2 4-foot lanes, and then the 6 foot for walking. And then if you, like I said, if you didn't want to, if you're just trying to get by quickly, we would also be constructing an off-street trail on Burnsville Parkway, and then you could use the shoulders on Judicial Road, which are like 8 feet wide, so they're nice and wide. And when I discussed getting over the railroad track, that would be here where we appear to be able to actually fill on top of the tracks. And then that would allow residents in this area to get down here, both walking or biking.
Yeah.
And then use the existing trail here. And then when I referenced studying the west side, we are also now then studying the west side of the pond, so that if we do get the funding, we could construct all of this with one project and have it all make sense, not look piecemeal, that sort of thing at the same time, and hopefully serve everyone the best we can.
And the grant that we're going to approve tonight is to finish the Lake Marion. This is the gap.
The grant would be to fund from up at Williams Drive, this is
Yeah.
where the existing trail is now, and this would be an off-street shoulder, or off-street in the current boulevard where a sidewalk is. Cross over the railroad track, use the current configuration here, and then complete this. The city and county would work on funding this outside the grant, and then the city likely would be responsible for the funding to do the trail on the west side, if that makes all sense.
Yeah.
If that all makes sense.
Okay, Councilmember Schultz, a question for Mr. Peterson?
No, actually, so my question is for you. If you could have your solution put in place, what would that solution be?
Well, and it's just ideas, but widening the path, 12, I would love to not see a road back there. I mean, I love the park, but, widening the path to 12 feet, I'm sorry, I'm being fractured here. Do the bypass, Burnsville to Judicial, because that gets, if that connection is ever made, that gets our true bikers out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Widen the path, fix it all the way around, designate, I wouldn't stripe it. I would mark it, so, bikes had one side, pedestrians had the other side. That gives the bikes a heads up. They don't own things. They have to watch out. Make the bike travel one direction, one way, and it actually counterclockwise would be better, because then they could use the gentle slope down into we call them the woods, down into the woods to go to the train track, as opposed to the steep hill that is on the east side that is only another, it just builds your speed. But, so I'm sorry, 12 feet, 14 feet, one-way bike travel counterclockwise, mark it so we know whose side is whose, and everybody needs to be on guard, so we're not, designating ownership that doesn't have to be, attention doesn't have to be paid.
Okay, I appreciate that greatly. So so this path is gonna be widened to 14 feet rather than 12 feet.
Which is, fine, I just don't like
Yeah.
asphalt.
Yeah.
But, if 14 feet would be even better, it is just a matter of, not turning this into a bigger racetrack than it already is. Softening the corners, widening the path, giving the bikes a lane that they know is dedicated to them, but is going to have people, there's gonna be people and pets and strollers, and there's gonna be things in that lane that, that if they're not watching for, they're gonna run into. And I scare people running, and I don't run fast, but, trying to come up on somebody on your left, and they're dodging to get out of my way, and these e-bikes and things, the skateboards can go 30 miles an hour now, and it's completely unchecked,
So widen the path and go counterclockwise,
one way for the bikes,
Yeah.
and yes.
is what I'm hearing. So, okay.
I mean, we
Councilmember
could do one way on the bike path, but then you get into issues of enforcement. And I'm not super excited about getting into that.
Schultz, we don't have the personnel.
Yeah, we don't, which if you can't enforce it, like, you shouldn't do it. It's kind of that military thing of never give an order that you absolutely know will not be obeyed, because it just is,
But it
bad
is,
for
it's
discipline
even,
and morale.
interrupt, but it's even like what you did during COVID, where the walking was one way. Signage, and it wasn't
Yeah, well, I
everybody.
wasn't
It
super excited about that either.
Well, I have to
it
run
worked.
clockwise or I follow,
Yeah.
or I have to run counterclockwise or I get in trouble, but,
Yeah.
it's, No, you're not gonna get everybody to do it.
Yeah.
But even if 50% of the bike travel was coming one direction, so you knew when and where to expect, or where to expect it from. If it was 60, 70, it is going to be up to, the bikers to choose to whether to do it or not. But if we don't give them, 66% of the path, I'm sorry, that's math,
Yeah.
but, we're just giving them, the pedestrians are losing in this equation. And, they're losing, the freedom and the tranquility to walk back there, to constantly be on guard.
So, Mr. Barron and members of the council, why don't we just have Mr. Peterson and his team continue the community engagement? Tonight, we're only looking at giving staff permission to go for the grant. That's all what we're doing tonight. The rest of the tactics on this particular project is going to be ongoing. And that's where Mr. Peterson and his team will have community engagement. But we thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts with us. So at least we know that you want a 16-foot width and counterclockwise. The problem for us is that if you're going to do that, then we'll have a lot of phone calls about people going the wrong way, and we don't have the staff. We do not have the staff to patrol. We don't.
Potentially better than injuries, though.
Yeah. So we'll continue to have you all work together through all of this. Tonight, it is to give permission on the grant
Thank you.
application.
One last thing, we are losing Sunset Pond. Its depth is gone, it greens up earlier, every year stays green all summer long, just on your radar.
Yeah.
It just,
Thank you. Our staff is on top of that because we do know
Okay.
what's going on, and we also know about what's happening with regard to the depth and also with the weather.
yeah,
So-
exactly.
So our staff is really on top of all of our water bodies. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yes. Mr. Peterson, thank you so much. Members of the council, I need a motion to give permission and adopt the resolution to support the Lake Marion Trail Gap federal funding application.
So moved?
Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Schultz. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The first item on the regular agenda is the agreement with Carbon Solutions Group to install, own, and operate electric vehicle charging stations at city-owned facilities and assume ownership of existing electric vehicle charging stations. And Mr. Peterson, this is yours, and you're going to introduce our guest.
Yes, thank you. Is Jody McDevitt on the Zoom?
Yes.
Is, okay. Sounds good. We'll get to you real soon. So like, as we said, we're here tonight to talk about real exciting thing for our sustainability initiatives, and that is potentially being able to get electric vehicle charging stations in around town at various facilities with very little capital needed by the city itself. So I'll be presenting, and then Jody Devitt, representing Carbon Solutions Group, will be making the proposal, and then I'll finish it off. So I got the first couple slides. So Burnsville Sustainability Plan 2020, our update, part of our fleet and equipment section, includes a strategy/goal of increasing the number of electric charging stations in public parking areas. And this proposal tonight meets that to a T. So I heard about Plymouth being the first in Minnesota to install a network of vehicle charging stations, and I got jealous. And we're trying to be on the leading edge, and someone beat us to it. But when I heard about the program, I'm like, we got to try to figure out if we can get that done here. We heard about it, that it was 100 stations, no cost to the city, no maintenance, and we learned some more on a webinar, and it appears to be true that what they're offering up. And so with that, I would turn it over to Mr. McDevitt to talk about the proposal.
Welcome, Mr. McDevitt, and we look forward to hearing your proposal this evening.
Thank you very much, everyone. I apologize. I'm actually speaking to you from my car. Like the hockey coach said, I also believe in the student athletes, so I'm outside of my son's college lacrosse game. So we'll make this, hopefully make this somewhat fast.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me? Okay?
Yes.
And I will change the slides for you.
Right. Okay, Ryan, you can go to the next slide. Quick introduction. My name's Jody McDivitt. I am with Energy Management Solutions. We are, as a quick introduction, we are based out of Excelsior. We are an independent energy consultant, so we work with our clients to save them money, make them money regarding all things energy. Regarding this specific program, as Mr. Peters may mention, it's by a company called Carbon Solutions Group. So my company actually partnered with Carbon Solutions Group to take kind of the forefront business development on this specific program. The overall vision for Carbon Solutions Group with this program is working with both private and public sector across the United States to install and own and operate electric vehicle charging stations. Next slide, please. So a couple trends, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but this is a trend regarding electric vehicles from Bloomberg New Energy. When I first started in this industry back in 2015, I was having these conversations and trying to convince folks that this company called Tesla wasn't a fad and that the electric vehicle was here to stay. So I think this third-party study by Bloomberg New Energy kind of hits home to that the upward black trending line are the sales of electric vehicles versus the blue downward trending line for the electric vehicles. And the electric vehicle overtakes the sale of the passenger gas vehicle in the year 2038. Next slide, please. The next slide's a very busy slide, but it's by a gentleman by the name of Warren McDonald with EVadoption.com. Warren's kind of like an EV guru that takes all this third-party information, compresses it, and puts it in nice little fancy charts as we see here. The takeaway for this chart is essentially talking about technology. And I think that we all know that technology has a wonderful bell curve. I forget the name of the bell curve, but it starts out with the innovators, and then you kind of go to the early adopters, and then you kind of cross over the chasm to mainstream. And Lauren's predicting that the year 2028 is when we cross with electric vehicles, cross that chasm to mainstream. So that's just a couple few years down the road. So next slide. The next slide really hits home, and I encourage everyone to just go Google, whatever vehicle you drive and electric vehicles. And you're going to get a press release and public press releases from the OEM, the manufacturers, stating what they're doing regarding electric vehicles, how soon they're doing it, how much they're investing. The automobile manufacturers have committed already to $330 billion investing in electric vehicles. So the market is coming, and it's coming fast. Next slide, please. So as you probably already experienced with the couple of charging stations in town, there's a lot of things to consider if you want to own and operate charging stations. Number one is the cost, right? Do you have the budget? Do you have the $8, $20, $50, $100,000 for just the station, plus all the installation? Who's responsible for any type of driver support when the driver has an issue or a concern? What about the station health? These stations are technology, so they do trip offline every once in a while. So who's responsible for fixing the station and doing upgrades to the hardware as well as upgrades to the software? What about the reports for your ESG goals or your sustainability goals? Who's responsible and how do you go about generating those reports? And that last bullet point kind of hits home. What about stranded assets? This is rapidly evolving technology for electric vehicle charging. So charging stations that you have in the ground today are definitely going to be different in 5 years, 10 years from now. So are you going to purchase a charging station and have a stranded asset? And the quote on this slide really hits home. It's from one of our customers. It's a grocery store customer in Ohio. And they said, we thought that we wanted to own and operate charging stations. We are a grocery store company, not an electric vehicle charging station company, right? They still want to offer the amenity. They want to attract the EV driver to their specific locations, but they don't want to deal with everything else that I just made mention, these bullet points. So next slide, please. So the solution is essentially, and hopefully, this no cost, no risk electric vehicle charging station program. When it comes to no cost, that's exactly it. There is the city of Burnsville will never be in a position to pay a penny regarding this program. And I want to stress that again, zero cost, not a penny. Carbon Solutions Group covers all capital costs. So they pay for the charging stations, the electrical drawing, the permitting, and the entire installation from transformers or electrical panels, concrete pads, trenching, boring, energizing, and commissioning these stations. They also cover 100% of all operational costs. Operational cost being the big one, the cost of electricity, who pays the Dakota electric bill or the Xcel Energy bill. The second being, because these stations are smart stations, there's technology attached to these, so they cover the software fee, which includes the cellular communication fee. And I want to stress that again, because we don't need to access the city's Wi-Fi or internet. It's all cellular technology. And then finally, Carbon Solutions Group covers all service, maintenance, and warranty work into the future. Okay. To maybe make it a little bit more attractive, there's also a profit-sharing component where Carbon Solutions Group will pay the city a dollar amount associated with every percent of utilization above 5. And they've determined that 5% utilization is where the charging stations really kind of break even. So at 6% utilization, so 440 some hours a year, you make a bonus payment for every charging station. And as the utilization percentage increases, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, et cetera, your annual bonus payment also increases. We've looked at a lot of your locations. Carbon Solutions Group, I think, is very excited. They're looking at installing different levels of charging stations as well. So level 2 stations in some locations and up to 180 kilowatt high power charger in the downtown or the heart of the city area. Regarding upgrades and expansions, that's all on Carbon Solutions Group, kind of as I just alluded to in the last slide. They're going to want the ability to come in maybe 6 years, 7 years, 8 years from now, whatever it is, and maybe remove a charging station and install whatever the latest, greatest, newest charging technology is. Again, no cost to the city of Burnsville. Obviously, you can meet your sustainability and carbon reduction and greenhouse gas emissions goals. We talked about that. If the city wants to get very creative, Carbon Solutions Group is open to co-branding, maybe fancy artwork or a new logo or a saying that we can do a vinyl wrap on the charging stations. And again, this really is an amenity to attract the EV driver. I tell folks all the time, there's a slight economic development component to this program as well. And the reason I say that is when I'm out and about, on my sales calls, between meetings or whatnot, I'm always going to one of these EV driver apps. Okay. Now the EV driver apps, if I click on an app, it shows me where charging stations are installed. So if I'm between meetings, I'm going to pull off of the freeway, go to the heart of the city, park, plug my car in, get some electricity or some juice in the vehicle. While I'm doing that, I'm probably going to walk down the street and grab a cup of coffee or a sandwich or maybe even grab lunch. So again, a slight economic development component as well to pull some people into the city, not only just for residents or for your fleet vehicles. And that last comment is spot on. Once again, 100% zero risk. You're never in a position to pay a penny to Carbon Solutions Group. There's no underperformance penalties. There's no lack of charging penalties. They're assuming all risk. Next slide, please. So how do they make this work? There's a couple ways they make this pencil out or they make this way work. First of all, they're going to take advantage of any federal tax credits or incentives that may be coming down the pike. The second is they're going to take advantage of any state or local electric utility incentives. The third is obviously they purchase charging stations at a wholesale price, so they're getting discounts. For accounting purposes, they do accelerated depreciations on their projects. And finally, number 4 and 5 is they're going to charge the driver a fee to charge their vehicles. Now, that fee is going to be about 10 or 15 cents above the cost of electricity, the blended cost of electricity. What that means in the Minnesota Twin Cities areas is that's going to be right around 25 to 30 cents per kilowatt hour of charging. Okay. For folks that don't know what that means in regards to mileage or rate, I'll give a true life example. The largest Tesla is a 100 kilowatt hour battery. If that vehicle is completely empty, we are literally pushing that vehicle to the charging station. To get that vehicle from 0 state of charge in the battery, so empty, to 100% completely full, it would cost that driver $30 to charge. That $30 would get that vehicle about 350 miles down the road. So when you compare that to gas, gas is easily double, if not triple that rate. So still significantly less than the price of gasoline to drive the equivalent mileage, okay? The second way they're going to charge the driver is this summer, they're going to be releasing a subscription model. It's completely voluntary for the driver, but a driver may purchase a $5 a month subscription or a $10 a month subscription. What that's going to do is get them a discounted rate. So instead of paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour for charging, for example, they may pay 25 cents a kilowatt per hour of charging. Or it may also get them X amount of kilowatt hours per month included. Kind of like your old cell phone minute days where you purchased a bucket of minutes, and if you went over those minutes, you paid the difference, or you could upgrade to the next tier. That will be the general concept of their subscription model. Again, completely voluntary. Next slide, please. The next slide just shows you different levels of charging. And what we really hone in on as electric vehicle drivers is that, second to the last point, the approximate range, miles per hour of charging. Level 1 stations, we're not even talking about. I just leave that up as an example. The market's moving away from level 1. So we're really looking at level 2 charging stations that put in 25 miles of range into the battery. And that's what you already have installed across the city. And we're actually going up to 180 kilowatt stations. We're kind of on that border of DC fast chargers to ultra fast chargers, where if you plug into one of those 180 kilowatt stations, it's literally 0 state of charge on the battery to 80% state of charge on the battery in 15 to 20 minutes, if not quicker, depending upon the vehicle. Okay? These charging stations also will charge every vehicle on the market except a Tesla. However, Tesla owners typically have a converter. If a Tesla owner doesn't have a converter, I guide them right to Tesla.com. They can purchase a converter for $99, okay, and put it in their trunk. But again, most Tesla owners already have that converter. Next slide, please. These are just examples of charging stations and kind of get an idea of the footprint. A lot of these are dual port stations. So level 2s will charge 2 vehicles at a time. The fast chargers will charge 1 vehicle at a time because the connectors, there's a competing technology, Asian manufactured vehicles versus European and American manufactured vehicles. So the fast chargers typically only charge 1 vehicle at a time. That's today. That will also probably change in the future. But this just kind of gives you an example. Next slide. And the takeaway from this slide is really there's minimal work from the city perspective. We look at the sites, we analyze the sites. Once an agreement is executed with Carbon Solutions Group, we will hold a kickoff call with your staff. That kickoff call, and that might also be with Xcel Energy as well as Dakota Electric, because they're going to have some work to do on these sites, as you can imagine. But Carbon Solutions Group, their project management team really takes the entire project, and they're going to work with the city on permitting. They're going to work with the local utility on electrical drawings and designs and upgrades and enhancements to the infrastructure. They're going to reach out and work with local electrical contractors for the installation. So I also want to stress that again. We welcome the introduction to any local electrical contracting companies that you may know. We can work with them on doing the installation. And then finally, commissioning the charging stations and the technology, both hardware and software. Carbon Solutions Group will be responsible for that into the future. Next slide. Timeline, people usually ask me, how long does it take? A good rule of thumb is about 6 months, if not longer. And the only reason I say longer is we're at the mercy of the utility sometimes. We are at the mercy of local permitting. And all I can say is supply chain issues, they are real. For example, I know Xcel Energy, they have this big gray cabinet, they call it electrical cabinet, where they put equipment in. They're having a hard time sourcing those electrical cabinets. But I'm pretty confident that we can get some stations in the ground yet this year. If not, we would launch again probably next spring. Next slide, sorry.
All right, I'll take over the presentation from here. I got about 2 left. So here's would be the locations that we would be talking about. They would take over the stations we own in the heart of the city and then put in that one DC fast charger there. We'd get them at the City Hall and the Ice Center. We'd be collaborating with the Ice Center project that we're preparing now so that we don't tear up something we're just gonna be building. Down at Crystal Lake Beach and Lac Levant Fields, Alimagnet Park, we'd get them at the maintenance facility. These wouldn't be for the city's vehicles, but for someone who would want to park there. Red Oak Park, North River Hills Park, Cliff Fem Park, Crosstown East. I really like this one. It's surrounded by a lot of multifamily housing. So if you live in an apartment, this would give you a chance to own an electric vehicle, which I'd be real excited about. Sometimes the cost of charging is an impediment to owning those if you don't have a garage. So all the stations would do that, but this one we specifically located there. I would, if you look at the map, it's definitely eastern Burnsville focused. There's just more draws there right now, more regional parks. I would say if we go forward, should we redo Kelleher Park, we would definitely talk with them about trying to get them in there. The project we just talked about, if we expanded Sunset Pond parking lot, I'd try and get them installed at that location at the same time so we can get a little more geographical balance. But right now, we have more of the attractive parks where we're getting more people on that side of the city. So that is why we're doing that. And so it's, anyway, that's the locations we're proposing collaboratively with Jody there. And then real quick, this is what, I'll go through this fast. Here's my takeaway on the agreement. It would be a 10-year agreement, so they would have the right to get their return investment over those 10 years. Then it can be 5-year automatic approvals. It's non-exclusive. So if we decide to change our mind and we wanted to compete with Carbon Solutions Group, we could put our charger right next to them. So I don't foresee that happening, but it doesn't keep us from allowing us to do it ourselves if we wanted to. That's not our goal of this deal, but there'd be 25 charging stations, about 50 chargers total, because there's 2 for most, and then that includes taking our ownership of ours, parks, facilities, HOC, and then, as he said, no city capital operational maintenance cost or responsibilities. That's truly what we're all real excited about. We'd be working on those locations collaboratively. They do all the work, including billing, and then we do receive some profit sharing after they become profitable. And then, as I said, I would expect that same 1-year deployment to get them all in place. With that, that's my summary, and we stand up for any questions.
Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Just a quick question on, I guess, like general liability exposures, complaints, customer interaction. If they're using these and there's an issue, is their resource going to be directly to you or us, or is that discussed at any point in this process?
If I can handle that, typically when a driver is at a charging station and there's an issue, they can either use their app on their phone, or they're going to actually call the toll-free number and get a human being on the other line to talk about, the potential issue. The human being on the other end of the line can actually, the technology permits them to do an over-the-air start of the charging station.
What a time to be alive.
Okay. Councilmember Gustafson.
Thank you. My question is, how does this play with what's going on in Washington right now with all those charging stations they're about to build all over the country? And do you qualify to even get any of that type of grant money?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think everyone is waiting to see, right? I mean, the federal government is stating that they want to invest in electric vehicle charging infrastructure. What does that look like? No one knows, right? There's rumors and rumblings that every state is going to get X amount of dollars towards that, and then it's up to the states to figure out how they distribute that. Do they do rebates? Do they do their own charging infrastructure? And I think there's just a lot of unknowns, and we're of the mindset that could take 2, 3, 4+ years before some of that money starts trickling down to the local municipalities.
Okay. Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know recently, in our tab updates, the MPCA was using the Volkswagen settlement money to install a lot of chargers around the state, but they're really focused on more rural areas out on the interstates. and highways for densely populated areas. Private sector companies like Carbon Solutions, I think, are going to fill a lot of that need, but it may not be necessarily on Carbon Solutions' radar to go put in, charging stations out on the open highway, out in the rural areas of the state. I think that's where the government money's going to be concentrated, but it'll be good. We'll have private sector partners with some public money and be able to offer these electric car drivers options, because if you're in a Tesla, it's somewhat limited. You really just plan your route to the superchargers, because anything less than that takes so long.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted to see that you're doing a level 2 and the DCFC chargers. For us, I mean, it'd be great. It's great to have some of those fast chargers in our city. Thank you.
Mr. McDivitt, one of the things that you mentioned in your presentation is that being on a highway or off the highway, Burnsville is where the interstate divides. And, all of our parks are not right off the interstate. And I was talking, one of our businesses was asking me, well, what's on your agenda? And I told him about this particular one. And he said to me, would they be open to putting a charging station on private property? Now, I said, I don't know about that. That's something that Carbon Solution would have to have that discussion with the private sector. But I said, this is what's going on in the city of Burnsville. So I don't know, my question to you is, are you also negotiating with private property that are closer to the freeway? I was thinking like the shopping center is close to the freeway. You can exit and then you can get back on the freeway. They're closer to the freeway, and there's a lot of coffee shops and everything, as you were saying. Charge your vehicle and go have a cup of coffee while it's charging. And if it's a super fast charge and you're looking at filling your car up to back to 100%, how long does that take if you're doing a super fast charge? So I just gave you two questions. One, private property, the other is super fast charge.
Regarding the private property, absolutely. I welcome
Okay.
the introduction to that individual or to that company. We were working with really essentially any site host, and the site host is who owns parking spaces, and that is any from cities and municipalities to shopping mall developers to gas station franchisee owners, believe it or not, to grocery store companies. So really, I welcome any type of introduction to the businesses in your in your town, in your city. Regarding I'm sorry, what was the second question? How fast does it take to charge a vehicle? There's a lot of variables into that question regarding, it's the size of the vehicle, the size of the battery of the vehicle, the efficiency of the vehicle, the state of charge on the vehicle, the type of charging station. If you're on a level 2 station, I give a great rule of thumb that says that the user in a level 2 station, to fill up their battery, they're probably going to charge on average 2 to 4 hours on a level 2.
Yeah,
On
that's
the 180 kilowatt DC fast charger, that kind of higher power unit, you're looking at literally probably 20 minutes, depending upon the vehicle.
Okay, very good. So, well, that's great. I will just let Mr. Peterson know who is interested from the private sector and work all of that through you and Carbon Solution. But I think it's going to even change quite a bit also with regard to the number of minutes or hours when you get to a fast charging capability. And things are changing very fluidly and quickly. Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Keeley?
Well, thank you. Councilmember Gustafson just mentioned it's kind of like the new gas station, but it made me think to ask the question, are there any gas stations that are looking to partner with you? Because gas stations don't necessarily make their money on gas. They make it on everything that's inside the building. And this offers a captive audience to park your car and for 20 minutes if it's a fast charge, or even to spend an hour to get another 100 or 2 miles and go in and buy coffee, a donut, some snacks, food, whatever it might be, right? It's a longer stay than filling your tank up with gas. Are you talking with Quick Trip or Speedway or any of those?
We're actively speaking with a gas station franchisee owner in Ohio that has 120 convenience stores, gas stations. Another organization in Michigan, another organization in Florida. So nothing in the local Minnesota area.
Yeah. So one of the things is that if you haven't been up to Toby's lately, Toby's has quite a few chargers, EV chargers, some Tesla chargers as well.
Toby's up off of
Yeah,
35.
off of 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
drove past, I didn't stop, I didn't get any cinnamon rolls on my
get the
way to
roll.
go
Yeah,
by.
oh my God. So because if you stop there, you can charge and you can go eat.
Yeah.
And of course, they have a bakery and a
And
restaurant.
it takes a while to eat all those large cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, I could probably do it in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Just saying.
Mr. McDevitt, this is really great, and as you said, that there is no cost to the city, and there's the opportunity for us to also gain some income when it's profitable. So tonight, Mr. Peterson, you are asking us to approve the agreement with Carbon Solution.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. McDevitt, for your presentation. It was very informative, and it's good to know how long it takes if you have a fast charger, because I think that's what we all need. The only thing that we heard from Dakota Electric is because it takes about 2 or 3 hours to charge, and if you're charging on peak time during the day, they don't like that because it's sucking up a lot of their, and they would much rather you install a private charging facility within your own home so that you can charge at night, off-peak time. So, but I don't know, you know, the cost of putting all of that into your home and getting off-peak electric is a little daunting. But, you know, everything's changing. Yeah, you have to go with the flow.
Are correct. It is changing, and there's, you know, the utilities will actually, you know, some of the utilities really like the EV chargers or the vehicles, because if you think about it also, there's a technology coming. I don't mean to steal any more of your time, but there's technology coming. We call it V2G, right? Which is vehicle to grid. So
Yeah,
Dakota
okay.
Electric, when the technology comes out, all these vehicles that are sitting there, they're large battery storage on wheels. So Dakota Electric, where the
they're making
technology is
it better.
going, you could actually suck the power out of the vehicle during those peak periods, help stabilize their system or their grid, and then that driver could be incentivized to charge at off-peak hours at night when they go home after 10 p.m., for example.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Gustafson.
Just one last question, and I don't know if this is a thing yet or not, but are you hearing anything about some sort of surcharge for charging stations like we do with a fuel tax now? That's how we pay for our roads and that. And as we see here, shortly, we're going to hit that intersection where that money's going to go way down. And
Yeah, there's, different states are doing different things. Some states are talking about a tax on the actual kilowatt hours coming out of the charging stations. However, most states are actually putting it on the registration of the vehicle. So your vehicle annual registration may be, for example, $70, an electric vehicle may be $150 on an annual basis.
I wish it was.
nice,
Yeah.
I'll take that 70.
Members of the council, if there are no other questions, I need a motion to approve the agreement before us with
Motion
Carbon
to
Solution.
approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes the motion, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Thank you so much, Mr. McDevitt, and have a great game. I hope
you very much.
your team is as successful as ours.
Well, right now, it's 7-5, so we're losing, so I got to go cheer them on.
Okay, go cheer them on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye. Okay, Mr. Peterson,
Yeah,
you have your agreement.
thank you very much. Thanks for moving along our sustainability efforts in the city.
Yes, of course, of course. Okay, the next.
Gotta have a place to charge my Tesla Boog truck once I get that sucker.
Mr. Peterson.
Gotta be ready for the boogaloo.
The next item is yours, and this is a public hearing, and this is a resolution to vacate a utility and drainage easement at 3201 Selkirk Drive as dedicated on the plat, River Hills 11th edition. Mr. Peterson, I think this is one of your kitchen cleaning
I
things.
think it may be kitchen clean, we'll see. So the location is off of Selkirk Drive that backs up to Cliff Road, so it's north of Cliff Road and then east of 13, and here's the Egan border, so we're right on the, getting close to the Egan line. It's an interesting lot for sure. There's a natural gas pipe that goes through the west side of the lot at an angle, and there's a 50-foot easement there located now, and then we have a separate 10-foot drainage utility easement off of there. And as you can see, they built the house right up to that line originally, which makes sense to make the most of the lot. So what they want to do is install a garage in there, which would be in our drainage utility easement. So it also encroaches just a little bit into the natural gas easement. I just got a little more information on that as we go through here. What we've come to agreement with is that we'd vacate that entire city easement, and the property owner is willing to provide new easements on the exterior of the property to meet standards today, so that's a win-win deal. And then there was in the background a letter from the natural gas company that indicated they were okay with the encroachment into their easement. Per the
Yeah, but they're
plans.
not giving it up. It's okay for them to build onto, but they're keeping the easement.
They are keeping the easement, yep. They don't tend to give that
Yeah.
up easily, so.
Because in the past, we have learned they do not surrender any of their asset or their easements, yeah.
Nope, they need to be able to get in there and maintain that asset, so.
But at least you're going to you can build onto it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, basically, I got two slides left. The resolution indicates there's two, conditions. One is, that they would, dedicate those two new easements we talked about, and then if there was to be any utility relocations, that would be the property owner's cost, but I'm not aware of any sort of cost there. So, with that, this is a public hearing. I stand for any questions for the property owner? No? Okay, I don't know if the property owner's even here.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Peterson? Okay, this is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Ms. Collins, is there anyone on Zoom that
No,
wants?
Madam Mayor.
Okay,
Are you talking about this item? or-
Selkirk. No, this is Selkirk. Okay, all right. There's no one to speak to this item. I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, I need a motion to adopt the resolution and to approve the vacation of the utility and drainage easement at 3201 Selkirk Drive and dedicate on, that's dedicated on the plat of River Hills 11th Edition.
So moved.
Councilmember Workman makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Schultz. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next item is item 5C, and this is the resolution to establish precinct boundaries due to the legislative redistricting. Our city clerk, Michelle Collins, is presenting. Ms. Collins? And this is one Ms. Collins has no control over.
Yes, she does.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item does happen every 10 years,
Yeah.
and all those years that end with 2. I don't have a presentation for you tonight, but I do have a copy of the redistricting map, and I can tell you that one of the things that, one of the things that we did when we start this process is, the first thing we look at, I'm having trouble getting this to stay up for some reason, it's not. There we go. So we'll start with the map from 2020. And what I can tell you is and you can see my pointer as I go along here, right?
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that the district line then moved from over here by Savage to right down 35W. It also moved over, cut through precinct 5, 6, and 9, to go down County Road 11. And over here, Burnsville Parkway, it just cut right through this little section right here of Precinct 7. So what we did is we looked at the areas that the precincts were no longer within the current district, and to see which precincts could absorb the additional voters from the precincts that were, from the areas that were cut apart. And another thing that we did was we went to the planning department and got a list of all these proposed developments that we have going on in the city, because these precincts are set typically for a 10-year period. So we know that in Burnsville, there's going to be a lot of new development coming up within the next 10 years, and we want to account for that ahead of time instead of having difficulty having too many voters in one precinct after that happens. Okay, adjust that. Oh, too small. All right. So as you can see, one of the things we did is this area up here was absorbed into Precinct 3. There's one registered voter north of County Road 13 up there. So that really didn't impact Precinct 3 at all. We added that little section south and east of Burnsville Parkway into Precinct 17, and we believe that they will be able to absorb that addition fairly easily. When we look over onto the east side of the city, we had a little more difficulty where the House District 55B and 52A borders align. So we do have Precinct 5 here. Precinct 4 became, with all the new development in the heart of the city, Precinct 4 became very large. So what we did was we took Precinct 5, which had been cut in half already, and we were able to take some of those extra voters from here, like north of Burnsville Parkway and east of Nicollet, that were originally in Precinct 4, and put them into Precinct 5. Precinct 6 and 9 were kind of split up also through this. The remaining voters we distributed between 6 and 10 over here, and Precinct 9 was able to absorb the remaining voters in this section. One of the things we also do is look at school districts. And because some of the other precincts, think about the area around County Road 42 and 30, where the 35E, we've got a lot of new developments going in up there. So we did have to look at Precinct 13. That was absorbing a lot of that new development, and so Precinct 14 had to adjust a little bit to carry some of that. Precinct 15 then adjusted to accommodate that, and Precinct 12, which is at the new retreat on Crystal Lake, the church area there. Now that is actually in their precinct, so that will help a lot. One of the tricky parts about this is to make sure that the school districts, that we don't have more than 2 school districts in any precinct. As you can imagine, having more than one ballot in any precinct can be confusing if you're not sure which school district you live in, right? So that was something that was a little bit tricky to get by, but we did manage to keep that. Did you have any other questions?
Any questions? Okay.
It was nice to see you got Precinct 1 relocated with Sioux Trail closed.
Yes, but Sioux Trail is closed, so we do have 4 new polling sites this year. Precinct 1 will be at the, I might have to,
River Valley.
I can't remember the name of the church, yeah,
River
River
Hills.
Hills United Methodist Church. That will be new. We also have Precinct 8. It was, the Ames Center was booked this year, so we're gonna have to move that over to
Faith Covenant.
Faith Covenant Church, and they have ample space for us there, so that's awesome.
And Precinct 4 is still going to be over at Sky Oaks.
Precinct 4 will still be at Sky Oaks, but you'll now be located in Precinct 5, Madam Mayor.
You moved
She
in
doesn't
Precinct
control
5.
these things, remember?
I know, now I have to go over to
Used to be
Eden
8.
Yep,
right?
that's correct.
Baptist Church.
And I'm in 5 now, I used to be.
Yeah,
in
you
4.
and I are in 5.
I'm in the same one.
The Destiny Church also sold their building, and we're going to revert back to the William Byrne Elementary for Precinct 6, which is where it used to be located years ago. When William Byrne was under construction, we moved to
Yeah.
Destiny, and we just never moved back. So now we have a reason that we need to move back. And then Prince of Peace, their, I can't remember, their something center, outreach center building
Mission
has.
Outpost.
Mission Outpost has sold.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
they
it's
have
back
offered
to,
to move it.
yeah, it went back to the hospital.
And so they have offered to let us use their church as the polling site. So that's great. So.
Can
lot
you
of-
go back to precinct 5 and let me see how you divided that up?
There's a lot of.
Yeah, there's 4 and 5, so,
There was a lot of BPO youth conventions last weekend and the weekend before, and so now everything's got to be redone. Like folks who were in 4 that might be leading the precinct, it isn't me, may have gotten moved to a different precinct. So they've got to really pay close attention to these lines and where everyone lives, and then notify the folks that their precinct may have changed.
Yes, luckily for us here in Burnsville, all of our council members serve at large, so we don't have to
yeah, we don't
worry
have to
about
worry
those
about that.
details.
So precinct 5,
No.
Yeah, we should be fighting over our own territories and trying to, no.
Yeah, it works well for Minneapolis, I know.
yeah, no, we don't want to be,
There's only 5 of us, there's no need to.
good Lord. Then everybody's going to say, instead of looking out for the good of the city as a whole, you're only going to look out for your own little,
That's what they do in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
huh? Yeah. Yeah, okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Ms. Collins? If not, I need a motion to adopt the resolution establishing the precinct boundaries.
Move to approve.
Second?
Councilmember Keely makes a motion, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and a motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the ordinance adopting revisions to City Code Title II, Boards, Commissions, and Departments, and housekeeping amendment to 1-4-7, Administrative Appeals. Ms. Collins.
Thank you,
is
Madam Mayor,
presenting.
City Council. This item was reviewed by the Code Review Task Force at the February meeting, and it was approved unanimously. We do have one other little amendment that came up to Title, after we went through Title I. And as we started going through Title III, and we're looking at liquor licenses and massage license, that kind of appeal process, the city attorneys have recommended that we change from 10 to 14 days to allow because these notices of violations are sent out by mail, they recommended that we change the time period for them to be allowed to submit an appeal be extended from 10 to 14 days, gives them a few extra days to get that appeal in if they didn't check their mail right away, and so that it gives them an opportunity. On vacation, that kind of thing. So it does give them a little more opportunity to get that in 4 more days. And so we are correcting that in the upcoming titles that we're reviewing at this time, and we had to kind of go backwards and check Title I and fix that one as well.
Okay. And all of your meetings are like all planning commission meetings, they are all televised and transparent?
Like all the other commissions, they're all televised, and the public is allowed to attend.
And you have Zoom if people want to also participate from Zoom?
We do, Madam Mayor.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions for Ms. Collins? Councilmember Schultz?
So I had requested that this item be pulled off consent, not because I have any objection to any of it or any questions over any of it, but number one, to thank our group that has been working on this. This is a lot of hours of work. I mean, however many hours viewers at home think this is taking, it's more. So I want to call that out and thank them for the work that they're doing on this. And number two, it's just my opinion that when a city is doing something this large, not to put it on consent agenda, just to call attention to it for our residents so that they can follow the progress of how this is being gone through. So that's my only comment on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Schultz. We have, our next title will not be so unanimous, so we have a little more
it won't be on
controversy.
consent, I can promise you.
We would not be on consent agenda regardless, so.
Yeah. And you were just following the
protocol.
policy and procedure of how we do
Absolutely.
things with commissions, so that
Yep.
at least our commissioners understand that continues to be what it is, that when they come to us unanimous, they have done all of the heavy lifting. We appreciate their work, and it goes on consent. And we have the ability to pull it for a separate discussion if we so wish. Okay.
I was just gonna add that,
Hey, wait your turn.
she looked at me, so I'm answering.
I got my button pushed like a minute before yours. Your button.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
go ahead. I'll take the last word, Dan.
Now, gentlemen.
gentlemen, I will go to Councilmember Keeley, and then I'll come to
You gotta be fast
Councilmember.
on the button. You
Yeah,
can't just butt in.
I'll go to Councilmember Keeley, then
She looked like she was
Councilmember
looking at
Gustafson.
me. Normally
Thank you,
I have to
Madam
do
Mayor.
this.
I just want, yeah, you've been at this end before.
I know I
Like,
have.
Hey,
I know I
I'm
have.
over here.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we have this, so when you're on cue first, you'll get called first.
We need to have a gavel.
I appreciate, I just want to echo Councilmember Schultz. I think something of this magnitude is, the whole thing doesn't need to be read into the record, but a summary and just having it called out as part of the regular agenda is good for it to get read on, out loud for the record, instead of just on consent, where it just sort of passes and doesn't get, unless somebody is doing a lot of reading, they don't really know about a lot of things on consent. So this brings it to light, so thank you.
Councilmember Gustafson?
I think I forgot what I was going to say. No, just kidding. No, I've been the liaison of this since the beginning, and this group is working extremely hard, and they take this
Yes.
very seriously. And I have no problem with us calling it out at our meetings, but I think it was good that you remind everybody, those meetings are televised, they are live. So there's transparency right from the get-go on this thing. So you have several different ways to find out about what's going on with this whole
Yeah.
ordinance reviews. And quite frankly, I mean, we haven't made a lot of changes. It's been more kind of downsizing the verbiage we have in them and making them much simpler to read. And I think you're gonna like how all this turns out in the long run. Most people will be able to go through our ordinance and see what they can do. They'll be able to understand what the ordinance means, and it's a whole lot. But I gotta tell you, it's gonna take a couple of years. This is not an easy process. This is at
No.
least a 2-year process.
It is.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate what staff is doing, because they're engaging all of our businesses and residents who are impacted with this change. Especially, you're going to be having the liquor license, and you've already had them in, and the store owners have been in, and they have testified, and I think you're going to have another meeting with them. Am I correct? With the liquor license holders?
No, Madam Mayor, we did have a meeting where the liquor license holders were invited when we reviewed that chapter, and that chapter is complete.
Yeah.
The task force is going to has given direction on the final version, and that will be approved at the meeting on May 30th.
Yeah, okay, so they don't need to come back in? Okay, all right, very good. City Manager Lindberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to reiterate something that Councilmember Schultz made mention to, we've got a great task force who's been working very hard on this project. I will say, good opportunity to remind the community that you can simply go to burnsvillemn.gov or org, excuse me, and search for code review. There's actually some links on our main page as well. The public can directly comment, access to all of the videos of meetings, also the live information for those meetings, and direct access to the entirety of our city code, which leads me to the last thing that I really wanted to say, which is both Michelle and Erica in our clerk's office have done absolutely terrific work in the past 2 months to make this process incredibly more efficient, both for the task force and the community. And that portal is up and live and ready for interaction by the community. So thank you for the team effort that's gone into this. Michelle, you've done great work.
Yeah, and thank you, City Manager Lindberg, and also because I do know the work that our city clerk and deputy city clerk doing all of this, and also the background material that goes out. Aren't you happy it's only once a month?
We can't forget about Megan because she keeps us all straight with all of our
She does.
paperwork.
With the paper?
Every
Well,
day.
that's good. So you have a good team moving forward with all of this. So members of the council, with this, I need 4 affirmative votes to adopt the ordinance and the revised Title II.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Councilmember Schultz makes the motion, second by Councilmember Gustafson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. There are no other items to come before the body this evening.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Is there somebody in the audience that did not get to sign up for citizen comments that would like to address the council?
Oh, very good. Okay, yes, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record. I did see that you came in late.
Thank you, and I apologize for that. My name is Lori Lukonic. I live at 11319 West River Hills Drive.
Okay.
And I came in because I work with Burnsville Schools, and I was on a bus today, and I went past a home on West River Hills Drive at the intersection of Territorial. And they are flying a flag that says F. Biden. And living in this city and having been given a bill for my children leaving a portable basketball hoop at the street, and that was wrong, and I appreciate that. There are rules for a reason. And for leaving my garbage bins out when my gate froze and I could not access that.
Yeah.
To see that, and I was in a bus with children, and they were, Miss Lori, what did that say? I'm here tonight to say, come on, guys. If we need to change an ordinance that will not allow that kind of behavior, let's do it. But that flag has to come down.
Okay. Thank you for coming and talking to us about that. There's free speech. I understand, and our attorney will talk to you about that, and it is. That's inappropriate, and it's lack of civility and respect. And it doesn't send a good message to our children of any of that. But Mr. Jamnik, I know we've had these kinds of complaints from people in the past, and it's too bad that we have this. So, Mr. Jamnik.
Mayor and Council, regarding those free speech issues, this particular exercise of their constitutional rights is not limited to Burnsville. It's not limited to Minnesota. It's national. The International Municipal Lawyers Association, National Association of City Attorneys in effect, had an article written by one of its members researching it and trying to explain in a general sense why local units of government are prohibited from taking action against people exercising their free speech rights, even when it may be offensive speech. And the case law goes back to the Vietnam War era, when people were wearing jean jackets with profanity on them and being removed from schools and sanctioned. And the Supreme Court, looking in those cases, enunciated the general rule that is protected by free speech, and local units of government are prohibited by the Bill of Rights from passing ordinances abridging or infringing on the exercise of those free speech rights. So we can share the frustration, we can share the offensive, characterization of the English language and use, particularly across from schools or churches, and but the problem is local units of government may not take action against that. The indication hopefully is to inform people, adjust behavior so that we don't offend each other unnecessarily and treat everybody respectfully. And that is a tenet of this city, as trying to welcome all, allow diversity of thought, free exercise of beliefs and political viewpoints in a respectful manner. And unfortunately, some people cross the line and offend people unnecessarily, but there is nothing that the local unit of government do. If we did try to bring in action on this, or sculptures that express a thought, or signs in windows, flags or signs, the city will lose. And that's just the way the system is structured. We protect people even when they're able to say things that we find offensive or objectionable.
Yeah. So
Even
Ms.
something that vulgar, F-U-C-K.
Yes.
Well, Ms. Laurie, it's a good opportunity for you to educate the children that are under your charge, that we don't do that, and we don't say things like that, and we don't try to. Yeah, and as you can see, it is about the Constitution and free speech, and it's on private property, and we can't.
There's no other option, no.
No.
There's
Petition.
Mayor and Council, there is no ordinance that we can fashion.
Yeah.
Because we would run up against the constitutional
Yeah.
protection. Fighting words, fire in a crowded theater, you've all heard it in civics
Yeah.
class and in public discourse. But the F word has not been classified as falling into that category of unprotected speech.
Yeah.
So,
But thank you for coming in and telling us about it, and my hope is that they're your neighbors.
I think I know who it is.
That this person grows up and
Yeah,
maybe finds a little decency along the way.
yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Lifelong
Thank you for your
learning.
time.
Well, thank you for coming in. I mean, you took the time to come in because it was offensive, and you had children under your charge.
I can't imagine anybody in my party that I would support doing that were it the other way around.
Yeah,
I would say, you're embarrassing me, you don't represent me.
yeah.
So if that dingbat is out there watching it, grow up.
Well, have a good
Please.
night, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for coming in.
Good night, you all.
Good night. Members of the council, there's nothing else to come before us this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in
Because it's
favor,
Taco
please say aye.
Tuesday. Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.